Hello and welcome to the Get Started Part 2 Course Setup for Course Coordinators workshop. First, let's look at your participant guide. Let's look at the table of contents. Okay, today we are going to concentrate on getting you started for your program or your course. But before we do, I would like to remind you that you have a workshop evaluation at the end, and I would like to point out a few things that are included in your participant guide. For starters, remind you that you do have your workshop evaluation on page 9, and also I would like to point out to page 19 where you have the coordinator questionnaire or the program, the course coordinator or the program coordinator. I assume that you have already taken a look at these, but this is a really good place to start to determine what is it exactly that you want to accomplish with your setup of the MyLanguageLab. And these are good questions that you need to keep in mind before you actually get started with your setup. Okay? Do you want to do the homework average? Do you want to have MySpanishLab be also the gradebook for your course? Do you want to do attendance? And if you are the whole program coordinator, how are you going to manage your TAs, your adjuncts, and what kind of privileges you want to give them? So if you have not taken a look at this, please do. And this is a good checklist to get started. It will help you plan your setup. In addition to that, I would like to take you to page 11. If you want CEU credit, you need to complete this project, and you have 2 weeks to turn it in. But even if you're not, I would like to point out that these are very useful documents that you should be creating for your instructors and your students anyway. Particularly a brief summary of the global activities and preferences that are set up for them so they know what they're working with, and definitely an outline of how you're going to do your grade distribution, which is already part of the things that you do for your class, right? So keep this in mind, and in addition, an email explaining this to all your instructors is always a good idea. This is a good guide to email or a document. It doesn't need to be an email of what they need to do, including instructions to register, because sometimes just that registration issue, it's complicated for first-time users, or it seems complicated. It actually is not. You know how to assign the sections, and it will save you and your instructors a lot of time and anxiety, to tell you the truth. And a brief narrative with information package, where to purchase a book, where do you want them to, what is it that they need to buy, are they buying it from your bookstore, how to register, why you're using MyLanguageLabs. That's very important for your instructors and for your learners, and what you consider to be best practices to manage your learning with MyLanguageLabs, such as time management, when to work, and other things that you might want to include as part of good learning strategies for any kind of learning of languages. So let me take you now to our MySpanishLab. Okay, this is the sign-up page. You are going to sign here, but before we do, I would like to take you here. This is always a good place to start, whether it's the fall or the spring, but it's always in the fall that the new tools are listed. So take a look and find your book. If you are an Arriba user or Gente user or Anda, you'll notice that there are a few things in the newer editions or reprints, and these are all additional tools that you might want to take a look at. If this is your very first experience with MyLanguageLab, maybe you want to take it easy, but maybe you want to find an instructor or TA that's a little bit more adventurous and you want to give it a try before you implement it in the whole course or the whole section. You have the live chat, the media share, the amplifier, the learning catalytic activities, and all our textbooks, Arriba, Gente Unido, Mosaicos, and ANDA, now have Club Cultura and video activities. These supplement the Vistas Culturales videos that were there before for those of you who have used My Spanish Lab before. And we speak activities only for Arriba, okay? So these are things that you might want to take a look at. Some of them require registration, so you might want to contact your Pearson rep and take a look at them. It's always fun to explore, right? So for your students, this is a very helpful page because it has all the information that they need to get registered. And it also has how-to videos that are in YouTube. You might notice that if you take them to the registration first, they don't have the information on how to register. That's a common mistake that we all have made when we start with this. So point your students to the Get Register, and it tells them exactly what they need to do, what they need before they get started, and the how-to videos. And these videos are assignable. You can just click a link. I typically send this information by email to my students before the semester starts, so they can register and they know what to do. So we don't need to do this in the class. But if you prefer to manage this in your classroom, this is a good way to start that semester with the videos. Some programs have the ability to take the students to a lab and have them all register there, so that would be a good idea. This one, Take a Tour, is very helpful because it's about 10 minutes and it takes them through every single feature in My Spanish Lab, the basic features, what they need to know, where to find the assignment, where to find the instructor comments. So it will save you some time, and it's all there for you. The same thing is available for instructors, exactly here, okay? So let's sign in. That's me. And I have an incredibly long password. Sometimes I get it wrong in front of my students, and it's sort of embarrassing. Okay. If you are the course coordinator or the program coordinator, you might want to start with Create a Course, and you are probably already there. So if you go to Create a Course, you select your textbook, right? So let's say it's Arriba, right? So let's look for Arriba. Okay. If you are the program coordinator or the course coordinator, you might want to select a program, not select a course. Select a course is for the individual instructors. Select a program will give you a template with everything that's in it, so you can make all the decisions for your instructors, okay? So it will take a little bit to load, and then you will have that program in your main page, okay? For your instructors, they're going to go directly here to enroll in a course. So you are going to create a course, and you're going to have a template, okay? So these are the templates that I have for my class, okay? And let's take a look at the most recent one. This is the one from the spring, okay? These are my sections. Once I have created them, these are the sections that I have, right? But we are starting with a template because we start a template before we make sections, right? This is very important because once you have created your template, you cannot change them. you need to go into the specific sections to make the changes one by one. So let's take a look at the template. Okay, the template looks exactly the same as the course page or the My Spanish Lab page for instructors, right? No much different. It's actually exactly the same. So let's get started and see what we have here. This is a very important place to start, hence called Getting Started. And this is where you're going to point your instructors and your students to start. That actually will be their first assignment with My Spanish Lab, and it should be yours too. Browser tune-up, it tells you if you're all set to go, okay? And it tells me that my browser is not supported because I don't have downloaded the latest version of Firefox. So all I need to do is get the latest version. All the plugins are free and are there, so you would be all set, okay? This is the most important element for success in your course because this is what we always tend to forget, okay? All the activities in My Spanish Lab are pop-up activities, and now the browsers trying to protect us pop up all types block all types of pop-ups to avoid things that you don't want in your computer. So you do need to let your browser know that you do want that My Spanish Lab is safe, and you have all the information here on how to do it, okay? So all you need to do is make sure that they are not blocked and that you're ready to go. If your students or your instructors do not unblock these pop-ups, they will tell you my activity is not working, my activity is frozen. They will be able to open the activity, but they will not be able to do anything with it because they're just seeing the screenshot of the activity, but the activity is actually not loaded. So make sure that you do disable your pop-up blockers. One thing to remember to share with your students and with your instructors, these settings do not travel inside My Spanish Lab, like my students tend to think. So if they use more than one device, they need to repeat this procedure in every single device that they use. If they go home to visit their parents for the weekend, they need to do this with their parents' computer again. If they go visit their girlfriend, and they do need to repeat the unblocking of the pop-ups, okay? Setting your time zone is very important, okay? And tells you, remember that the default is Eastern time. If you're in Eastern time, you're all set. But if you're not, you need to set up your time zone. And you need to set up your time zone here in Preferences too. We'll go into that in a second. And this is a tour of all the features in My Spanish Lab. It's very useful. Take a look, take notes, okay? And to set up your e-text, you can do this, but actually, I have a secret for you. If you just click on e-text, and you open it, then it will be available to all your instructors and all your students registered in the course. And it takes a little bit to load. That's all it takes, okay? So you don't need to worry about registering your e-text or anything like that. There you go. Okay? And since we have the e-text open, I would like to give you a tour. The e-text is very useful. I actually do not bring my paper book to class anymore, and most of our students don't either. This is something that you need to decide. Some instructors want that paper book in the class every day. For me, it is not important because I don't mind if my students use their computers or their iPads, but some instructors do not like that. They find it distracting, so, that's only for you to decide. All you need to do is write the page that you want here. So let's do 14, okay? And it's there, okay? You can project straight into your PowerPoint, okay? Or you can do a link, okay? And when you go here, this is a perfect place to take a screenshot to take into your PowerPoint. you are all set with this. My trackpad is a little bit stuck here. Okay, so let's open this. Okay, there you go. Okay, there are a few other options here that are very useful. There's a search function. My students love this because they have a test tomorrow about the subjunctive. How do you spell that? Okay. And look what happens. It tells you all the places where they can find it, okay? Oh, yes, it's about chapter 15, so let's take into those pages, right? Consultorio gramático. Okay, great. So I know where to find my things, okay? So let's go back. This is if you want to highlight your book, and you can highlight it for yourself, or you can share those highlights with your students, okay? The same with this. This is the note tool. My students love their note tool. Let's find a page with text. Okay. Okay. So maybe I want to add a note here, and I'm going to say, please study this vocabulary list for the quiz tomorrow. I can save it. I can put it as a link, and I can decide whether or not I want to share this with my students. Maybe it's just a note for myself, okay? So this is very useful. And of course, it also has the built-in information here. Okay. Tells you if they need to work in pairs. This is just from the textbook. And if your activity has audio, you just click on the activity, and that will bring the audio to your class. Okay. So this is the ebook. Very useful. If your students have iPads, they can get the ebook in their iPads too. Okay. So let's see. We need to create a section from your template. So you need to go to Preferences, and you're going to check all the things that you checked in that checklist that I mentioned in your participant guide, and decide what is it that you want to make available to your instructors and to your classes. There's a little stuff that comes already as a default, and the default is based on the most common preferences of instructors. For my part, I mostly use the default. But, you can take a look at the things that you need to decide, okay? You do want to enable the resource toolbox for your students, and we'll talk about that in just a second. That is very important, okay? You want to probably leave all this ready. You want to enable them, try again, so they can do their activities more than once. This is very important. This is something that you need to decide for your whole section, for your whole program, right? When do you want your activities to be due? The 11:59 p.m. is the universal due date for online materials in classes, and I go with that. Why do I go with that? Because it makes it uniform for all my 18 sections. I have instructors and sometimes students that request, why don't we have a due date of right before class starts? If it's an 8 a.m. class, that should be the due date for the activities, 8 a.m. First of all, I want uniformity in the program. This is the most important thing that I can do to ensure that all the students, all the learners in my sections are getting the same kind of instruction. I will lose my mind trying to set up different due dates for each section. And you know what? What can they learn from doing the homework 5 minutes before class? I don't think it works. So I just make it 11:59 for every single class, even the evening classes, 11:59. That's the universal due date. Do not forget to click on Apply to All before you're done, okay? So this is what we have, and like I said, basically the most important thing that you need to work in here is when do you want those activities to be due, okay? So it's general and make all activities due at this time, okay? You notice that you have time zone and location here. Make sure you select your time zone. I have already selected mine is Central Time. I want to show you all the time zones that are here. It's not just the ones in the United States. I have students that have chosen Central America and they're in another time zone. Sometimes they used to have Central Africa. I don't know if it's here anymore. So, you need to make sure that you select that and that you have to decide whether you want your course to override any other preference or you want the user profile to override the course preference, okay? So this is something else that you need to do. So you start with general, again, and in general, you need to decide when you want to make your activities due, and you're going to click Apply to All, and don't forget that you need to scroll all the way down and save your preference before you do something else, because otherwise you will be clicking and nothing will happen. Then you go to time zone, okay, and grading. This is a decision that you need to make. Are you applying the same grading criteria to all your students, or do you want your individual instructors to have that choice? I make that decision for all my instructors. Again, to me, uniformity is key. So you need to decide what you want. The default for passing an activity is 70%. And that is the passing grade for my class too, 70%. So I want to make sure that the students can achieve a 70 before they move on to something else. I like to provide the class average for my students, so that's what, and that is a default also. That's why I have it selected. You need to decide whether you want your students to see the class average. My students are very competitive. Most students are. And they want to see how they're doing in relation to their classmates. That's an incentive to work a little bit harder. And also, when an activity has been extremely hard, I do get emails saying, Profe, you killed us with that activity. The class average was 66. So I know that I need to take a look at that one, okay? So something else that you need to think about is, whether you want to round up the grade or not, and how flexible you want to be with the fill in the blank questions. If you, because I do not want them to ignore punctuation. I want them to spell those words correctly. But if they have an extra space, I really do not mind, okay? So please take a look at this and decide what you want to do. Accents are something else that you need to think about. Do you want it to be absolutely perfect? Do you want it to be very flexible? I went halfway, and actually I think this is the default, if I am not mistaken. And look what I have selected. I gave them partial credit, and I assigned a 50% credit. So that is still not passing, but it's not giving them a 0. So they know, I do need to look at the spelling. Maybe I got the right answer, but I do need to, oops, it is not default. So, and I remember, if this is what you want to do, make sure you click Apply to All and Apply to All. And do not forget to go all the way down and save your preference, okay? So again, when we're doing grading, most of the selections are default, and maybe you want to 100% to pass the activity. Okay. Again, towards the end, you need to decide how flexible you want to be with the fill-in-the-blank activities and how flexible you want to be with the spelling, particularly the accents. So you also need to decide how much credit you're going to give them if they are missing accents. And do not forget to go all the way down to save your preference. Okay? So let's go back to our preferences. And again, this is what you are deciding for your whole section. So you need to take care of, think about what you want to do here. Permission. This is another area that is important. You are going to decide what you're going to make available to them, okay, and what you want to show in your class. If you are allowing your instructors to create additional stuff or to copy stuff from the book, I always let them add their own. They cannot remove anything, but they can add, okay? And what you want to do with your gradebook, do you want them to be able to add stuff to the gradebook or not? Do you want them to go strictly with what you have, okay? The gradebook activities, reporting, okay, location, okay. You need to be very careful with your permissions because those permissions apply to you also. You cannot select something here, select apply to all, and then try to change it for yourself. You need to be very mindful of what you select here before you set up your sections because that will apply to you also. Okay, so permissions, decide what you want to do. Activities. This is very important also. You are going to select what activities you are using here. Okay. Most of the activities that we're going to select are mostly in the SAM folder. That is the one with the S. SAM means Student Activity Manual, and it is what used to be the online lab manual from years ago. Now it's just one component of My Spanish Lab. So you're going to go here, preferences, and decide. These are decisions that you need to make, okay? The default, you can decide what you want to select here. Again, don't forget to click on save, okay? How many questions? I do not let them skip because I want them to work on a progression, and there's a reason for that. I want students to try again if they don't get the desired score. And some students, even if they get a 70, they want to try again to get 100. So that is fine. I do require that students answer all the questions. If they do not answer all the questions, they cannot submit the activity. I disable the browser translation. That is important. Otherwise, it's always there. Do you want to translate this page? Mr. Google and Mr. Firefox are very accommodating with the translators, so you need to keep that in mind. Okay? Do you allow students to save for later? Of course. If they have not finished, I don't want them to lose what they already did. Okay? Now, important number of attempts. I give them 3 attempts. We have a lot of homework, and if I give them more than that, it will take them forever to finish their homework that night. I do not recommend setting the attempts to unlimited, because if you set the attempt to unlimited, they never get the feedback. and you want your students to know why they got something wrong and to get that feedback, that automatic feedback from the machine-graded activities. So if you want your students to be able to get feedback from My Spanish Lab about why they got something wrong or what the right answers are, you need to allow a number of attempts. I do 3, my colleagues do 5. I know that some people allow for 10, but then again, until they get to that last attempt, they won't be able to see the feedback. So you need to keep that in mind, okay? Unlimited number of attempts, they never get to see the feedback, and they really do not need unlimited attempts. Don't forget to click Save. So again, in this place, you need to select your activity, the type of activity, and what you want to select. Okay, the most important thing that you need to think about here is whether you want to allow students to try again, whether you want to disable the blocker, the browser, so they cannot get the translation, and how many tries do you want them to have to complete the activity. And that is something that you decide for your program, and that will apply to every single section in your program. Okay, the extra practice activities, same thing, same choices, okay. Practice tests, we don't use that, but you know, if you are going to use it, you need to make sure that you want to set up some activities here, particularly the browser translation and the number of attempts. If it is a test, it should be only 1 attempt, okay? And of course, they won't get any feedback after that. So oral activities, same thing, very same thing. I allow them 3 attempts because they do their speaking. They have a chance to listen to themselves. I give them a little bit of a guide. Okay, did you include this? Are you satisfied with your speaking? Do you think your instructor will be able to understand? If you're ready, then submit. If not, you can try again. So perhaps 2 would be plenty, but you know, we go for 3 and save. Don't forget to save. Okay. So that is what we have here, and don't forget that you do need to go all the way down and save your preferences. Okay? There's some other things here that you might want to take a look at, but for setting your basic template, your preferences, your global preferences, remember these are the important ones. General, okay? And the most important aspect in general is that time zone. When do you want your activities to be due? And then you click on Apply to All. You can then go into the specific activities and allow for late activities. Don't worry about it. And remember that you need to go all the way down and save preferences. Okay? You can also set the default size for the font if you want, but that is really not something that is important. So in general, again, time zone, super important. Go all the way down and save your preference. Okay? You do the same for the time zone, and in time zone, you need to select your own and decide whether you want the course to override or the user profile to override the course preferences. Okay? Should be, for my case, it should be course overrides the preferences. So I need to change that. Save preferences, don't forget. And remember that this will also be available to your students. Point out to your instructors and students that it is a huge list because Pearson is a global company, international company, and they have users everywhere. So you need to keep that in mind. Again, permissions, what do you want your instructors to be able to do once you set those sections, okay? So you need to decide because whatever you decide applies to yourself too. Grading. what do you want the grading to look like? 70% for passing? Do you want them, how strict do you want to be with your fill-in-the-blank questions and your accent? And do not forget, apply to all and save your preferences. Okay? In permissions, you might also want to decide whether you want your instructors to have privileges or you just want them to be TAs. Again, you need to be careful with that because those permissions apply to all. If you want to set different permissions, please talk to your Pearson representative so they can help you with that. Okay? So these are the most important ones. I encourage you to look at what the others include, particularly the roster. How do you want your roster to look like? This is all user-friendly and very intuitive. And don't be scared, okay? Make sure that you take a very detailed look at what your preferences are and what you selected before you actually send those sections to be copied, okay? So let's go back. Okay. So in the course materials, there's a very important tool called Instructor Resources. In some textbooks, it's inside the specific chapters. In some others, that is the first folder that you'll find once you click on course materials. You notice that there's an assignable how-to student video and quiz. Those are the movies that I talked to you at the beginning that I showed to you, and you can assign them. First steps, the overview. You know, I always include for my students, the first steps, browser tune-up and all that, and I assign the quiz, and that is their first homework, and it's more for accountability than anything else. But you might want to share these videos with your instructors before your semester starts. You notice that there are many videos here, and those same videos are also available as text documents with information in the user guide. So let's stick to the course material, okay? So this is in your course materials. You notice that you have the logos here, you have the text resources, media share, and all the resources by chapter. So this is a good place to find all those basic information things that you need. General text resources, podcasting and media share if you want to use it. It is also under more resources. We'll take a look at that in a sec. So let's take a look at inside a chapter. Okay, your chapter includes a readiness check. And the readiness check is a pre and post quiz. You might choose to include it or not. It is very handy because what it includes is, at first, a tutorial of the definite and indefinite article and the nouns and subjects in English. If you have learners that are non-native speakers of English, this is a very good resource for them. Be sure to point them out to them if you do not assign the readiness check. I do assign the readiness check, and it's due Sunday evening at 11:59 before they come to class, because that way I know exactly what they all saw, and these are also available here, and you can find them by chapter, by English or Spanish, and you'll notice that these are PowerPoints with the audio, right? for ADA compliance. Mhm. It's an animated PowerPoint. And at the end, there's always a multiple choice activity that they need to submit to complete the tutorial, okay? And if it's assigned, they need to complete this before they can actually get, in order to get credit. My students really appreciate these, these tutorials, and I assign them. If you want to assign all the tutorials, all you need to do is go to your course materials, select the chapter, and the tutorials are there. The tutorials included there are only the Spanish grammar tutorials. If you want to do the English, you need to either look at them under the tutorials and assign them individually, or you can go ahead and assign the readiness check for the chapter. I do assign the readiness check because it's a good way of giving the students, making them responsible and accountable for their own learning, and to be able to identify what they need. I do not want my instructors wasting time teaching English grammar in the class. If we have that there, it's great. And if the students know what it is, it takes them 30 seconds to complete, and they move on and they say, you know what, you are ready to get started with this chapter. Otherwise, it designs a study guide for them. You know, you don't get a specific thing, so make sure that you do your the following activities. These activities will help you master that concept. So it is a very useful resource. The student activity manual is where most of the practice activities are housed in My Spanish Lab. And you'll see that the icon is an S right here, right? So if they have a pencil, that means that that activity requires instructor grading or intervention. If they don't, they are machine graded, and they will get immediate feedback once they're done with it, okay? We also have, depending on your textbook, all of them are identified with a grammar the grammar item that they target, or the vocabulary. So, and depending on your textbook, if you're using Gente, for example, you do have voice recording activities that are very useful. The students have sometimes to repeat something, or they have a simulated conversation where they need to reply to some basic questions. Those, you see the pencil, they do require instructor grading. Okay, and we have quite a few of them. You don't need to assign all of them, but you choose whatever works for you. Decide how many activities is a good number. What is a feasible number for your student population and for your instructors? Okay. In addition, there's the additional practice activity. These are all multiple choice, and they are basically mostly grammar. I like to assign these before we start with the day before or the week that we have a test. It's really, a lot of them are already assigned in the readiness check, so it's a good additional practice. Chapter resources, that is where you're going to find your videos, where you are going to find the cultural information. Gente en Acción is a movie specific to my textbook, but Vistas Culturales is included in every single textbook. You can have it with captions or without. So you decide what you are going to assign. Do you want them with captions or without captions? And if you go to Vistas Culturales, the whole folder, it also includes some activities already made for you. And there's some activities also that are either machine graded or instructor graded. And some of these instructor graded activities, if you decide to use your Vistas Culturales, are good to use in the classroom. Okay, chapter resources, houses that, and e-text links. This is extremely useful. These are all the e-text activities, okay, that go with the chapter in case you want to assign them, because they are also assignable. You can assign activities from the textbook and from the SAM, the Student Activity Manual. So that is what you have in every single chapter, okay? Before we go to that, before we go on to assignment calendar, you need to decide, what you want to assign. Again, let's look at what is inside the chapter, right? You have the readiness check. You have the student activity manual. The icon is an F, like in here, okay? And you have additional resources, chapter resources, okay? And the tutorials that go with the chapter. But again, those tutorials are only for the Spanish grammar, not for the English grammar, okay? And in chapter resources, you also, the very first link is the downloadable media files. All you need to, if you're doing your activities in the class with you want to use the audio to do an expansion activity or to repeat the activity in your class, all you need to do is select them here. Okay. If you have video in your textbook, then you can download that video directly to your, if you want, you can download your video direct to your PowerPoint by right-clicking, and the instructions are right here. Very useful. Okay, so that is what is in course material. You can decide to hide some materials from the class, particularly if you're not using all the chapters. I leave things open except the captioned videos, because we use them without captions, because I want my students to be able to explore and to try other activities to practice even if they're not assigned. If the activities are not assigned, they do not go into the gradebook, okay? So, assignment calendar. You or one of your assistants is going, after you have selected your global preferences and all the materials that you want to use, are going to be selecting what they want to assign for each chapter. And you are going to set that up before you copy the sections, okay? So let's see what we are going to have the readiness check assigned, and it is going to be due this Sunday. Oops, there it goes, okay? So that is all I'm going to assign to my students on Sunday. I want them to be ready to work with the material in class. But let me see, what do I want to assign? Most of what I assign is machine graded. And this one means that it has audio. I do make sure that they have some audio, because I want that listening practice every time they go into my Spanish lab. So I'm going to assign this one, al contrario, vocabulario en contexto, categorías. So this Monday is my vocabulary day. So I select, and look, all I need to do is, there you go, on Monday. Okay? So that's it. That's very easy. I want another one for Tuesday. Okay, there you go. My recommendation for the assignment calendar is to be as uniform as you can in terms of what is due. If your schedule allows, mine does, I have the the possibility of assigning exactly the very same type of activity every Sunday. And Sunday is a long due date. It goes from Thursday, they can start Thursday evening, they go to all the way to Sunday. So they don't actually need to do it on Sunday. Sunday is when it's due at, of course, 11:59 p.m. Central Time in my case. Monday is always the vocabulary day. On Tuesday, they work specifically with the cultural videos. Wednesday's grammar, and then they have the long due date again. So that way the students know exactly what you can expect, what they can expect in terms of the homework. And when you have stuff online, the out of sight, out of mind applies. They tend to forget that they have due dates. If it's very uniform and it is a set schedule that every Sunday they have something, every Monday, every Wednesday, it helps with compliance and helps have your students ready to be involved with the material. That is all that it takes to select your activities and assign them to the calendar. If your instructors or your students click, they will see exactly what is due, and it takes them to the activity. Okay? Very good. So that is for the assignment calendar. Not complicated. Something that I use quite a bit in the assignment calendar to keep a teaching presence, and this is mostly for your instructors, unless you want to make an announcement for the whole section or you want to point something out to everyone, is that you have the possibility of adding a note. Remember that I mentioned that I assign those extra practice activities. I always make a note. It says extra practice, but they are required. They are assigned to help you get ready for the test coming up and I put the date there. Keeping that instructor presence in My Spanish Lab is very important. They need to know that you are also involved in this aspect of the course. So we're almost ready with the setup of the assignment calendar, right? You can change your mind and you can unassign things. Okay, so let's go back again to my assignment calendar. I think I did chapter 2. Let me make sure it was chapter 2. Yes, it was chapter 2. I am not too excited about having assigned that one, so you know what? I want to remove it. Again, you click on it, and you see, you unassign. And it's going to ask you, are you sure? And you say, yes, okay. Same thing will happen if you assign the same activity more than once. My Spanish Lab is going to ask you, do you want to assign this same activity twice, or you want to assign it only once, and you decide. So this is what you have, and again, you can assign from your SAM folder. There's a lot of stuff there. You can assign your readiness check. You can assign the whole tutorial folder. Okay, and I do assign the whole tutorial folder. You can close the student activity manual. I don't need it. Chapter resources, the tutorials. Okay, I do want to assign that, the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to put this on Sunday. I already had something assigned. That's fine. I can add more. Yes. Okay. So that is what we have. And if you want to assign something from the textbook, same thing. So again, you can also select a specific date and you can add a note. It could be a program note or it could be an instructor-specific note. Okay. I like that function, and I know that my students like to see that sticky note. Okay, so what happens when we go back to the calendar. Oh, I didn't use yes, let's edit because I'm being strict with my students about the spelling. So, okay, there we go. Okay, and when we go back to the month, you see there's a sticky note there letting them know my instructor or the program coordinator put a note there for me. I better take a look at it. So that is it. So let me see. User guides, super important. Every single thing that you want to do in My Spanish Lab is included here. You might forget some of the things that were included today. You can go back here and select, and you see, this is divided in specific items or topics, so you don't need to go through the whole thing. Okay, maybe you forgot, how to assign with due dates? It's going to be there. Okay, how to accept late work? It's going to tell you how to accept late work for the students. And once you open the activity, it's always going to be available for you, that accept late option. One more thing. You can always ask for help, and it tells you exactly where you need help. You can submit a form, and it will be replied to 24 to 36 hours, or you can go straight to the customer help chat. More resources is something that you want to show your students and your instructors, right? Same thing is here, but the learning catalytics that I was talking about, and that is a topic for another workshop, is here. If you want to use it, you can connect with if it's available, you can connect with your Pearson rep, and they will take you through that, okay? All the additional resources are there. Okay. I think I have too many things open here. See, not a good idea to have all those things opened. It must be behind me. Yes, it is. Open many, many times. Okay. The amplifier, but this is something that is very useful. Pronunciation guide. And this is something that I always point out to the students. It shows them how to pronounce, how to deal with the accents, consonants, glides, linking, okay? And all they need to do is click on something, and it will open it, and they can hear the pronunciation, okay? So for the students that say, there's no pronunciation, there you go. This is another thing that I need to take care of. I need to allow quick time so they can listen to the pronunciation. So again, this is very important. You need to keep in mind that your view is not exactly the same as your student's view. So if you click here, you'll see what your students see in the class. And you'll notice that there are two additional things in this yellow bar here. Okay, it's called the glossary and the verb chart. User guides for students are there also if they need help. Same tutorials if they want to search by themselves, they are available there. And the e-text. Remember that you need to click on your e-text on this other side to be able to enable that e-text to be available to your students. That's all that it takes. You need to click on that. Glossary is exactly what they have at the end of their textbook, but it has pronunciation. Okay, so they can listen to how it is pronounced and they can search by alphabet or they can put the word in there. It is exactly the same thing that they have available to them at the end of the book. Verb chart, unfortunately not available on the instructor site. So if it's something you want to show to your classes, you need to come to the student view. And my students always have issues with the conjugation of the reflexive verbs. So if they are working on an activity on reflexive verbs, present tense, yay, it's all conjugated for them. So this is something good to show to your instructors so they can show it to their students. They do need to select what they want to do. If they want imperative or subjunctive, they need to change the mood or mode. Okay? So this is very useful. This is one of my students' favorite. They love the tutorials and they love the verb charts. They love that. Okay? So let's go back to the instructor view. We're almost done, and I'm pretty sure you are exhausted and overloaded with information. Please remember that all this information is available in the user guide. So, communicate. You have a few options here. You can use email. Remember that the email it lives in My Spanish Lab, so you need to be careful with that, whether you want to enable it or not. I like to send emails from an activity to the students if they need to do something specific with it. Test bank is here for you to decide how you're going to work with it. You might want to add specific things, and if you do decide to use the test, make sure you check the Appendix C in your participant guide. I think it's page 18. It has some useful best practices recommendations for using online tests. So, gradebook. You need to decide what you want to do with the gradebook. Okay? Do you want that gradebook to be your class gradebook, or do you want it to be just the gradebook for My Spanish Lab? Okay, I use it only for the Grading My Spanish Lab, and I have set it up so they can see, like I said, the course average, and also they can see the grade that they have in My Spanish Lab. Okay, so you can decide maybe I want to see only the grades for chapter 2, okay, or you want to see the whole thing. Remember that, you can hide it from students if you want. So I don't have an active section right now. Let me see if I can show you my gradebook. So the class average will be shown to the student as well as the student grade. If you decide that you want to use more than just the grade in My Spanish Lab, you can add to this. This is super user-friendly. The numeric column will name the column. What do you want it to go after column 1, which is the default, which is just the grade for My Spanish Lab, and you save. Okay, you can also add a calculated column. You can add a free text column, which is great for feedback if you want to create a feedback column for your instructors. And you can do a total column. Okay, that is going to show you. That's what I have set up. I have all the chapters set up, and it's giving them the specific information that they need to know exactly how they're doing with the gradebook column. okay, with a gradebook. Okay, so what else do we need to do? You need to ask your instructors to fill the profile, okay, and save. If your template overrides everything else, all they need to do is to make sure that they have selected this. Okay. Uh, okay. Once you have decided what you want to do, you need to go back and select your template. Okay. Make sure you know all that I have in this template is good. I am fine. I am happy with this. And oh, no, I am not happy with this. I have not done anything about notifications. You can customize your notifications, and I strongly recommend having your instructors put a welcome message here. And you can determine for how long you're going to keep it, for 1 day, for 1 week. I like to put messages every Monday for my students about what's happening that week. And you can just save and close, and you're done. Okay. Otherwise, it will just be the default message from Pearson. Okay. So you want to keep this available for your instructors at first, and I normally let my instructors customize their own welcome message. Also, announcements are very important. If there's something happening, your LMS system is going to be down, or My Spanish Lab is going to be down, it's going to be shown in here. My Spanish Lab goes down for maintenance every now and then, and you will get alerted to that, and your students too. Okay, so I think I'm happy with what I have decided here. I have made all my choices in preferences. Going back, yes, I did the general. The general was mainly my due date. I applied it to all, and then I went all the way down to save. I decided what I wanted to do with the grading, and I went to another. Sorry. Okay. I made my choices for the grading, the permissions. I decided what I wanted to do with time zone and with the grading. Okay, how strict was I going to be? And with the activities, I went in and I selected for each one of them what my preferences were, how many attempts, if I was going to disable the translator, the ability for the browser to show a translator, and if I wanted my students to try again, all the way down. So I am happy with this. Let's go down to my home page, and now I'm ready to add my section. Okay, I'm going to click on Add a Section. I'm going to select my template. Excuse me, this is going to be called Spanish 1001. Okay, and I'm going to select this template. I'm going to select when to start, when to end, and how many sections do you have? I have 18, so I'm going to put 18. Okay, I always started a week before, or you need to choose a start date based on when your instructors are going to have access to this. Otherwise, your instructors will not be able to see the sections. Okay, so keep that in mind. And you see, this is a very small window. You need to make sure that you add and close. And it's going to show a green message saying that your sections are being created. Once your sections are created, they're going to show in your section list. Okay? And this course ID is what will take your students and your instructors to their specific sections. As you know, there are two different codes that they need. They need an access code, the students, purchased, and that will be first. And then they are going to ask you if you want to enroll in a course, and your instructors need to enroll in a course using their course ID. And as soon as they enroll in a course, you'll see that their number will be showing as instructors. You'll be able to see if they have not enrolled because it will not show a name. Non-enrolled, that's me because I created this section. Okay? So that is what happens to create the sections, and this is super, super, super easy. If you don't do it when it's extremely busy, in about an hour you have all your sections created. So that is what happens here. Let's go back and take a final look. Okay, let me choose a section to show you the alerts. That's the last thing that you need to look at. Okay, let me do one of mine. Okay. You see, we have some notifications, and you can customize how you want those notifications to happen. Okay? Do you want to have those notifications for your students, for your instructors? And this is the welcome message that we were talking about, right? Okay. So you have a few options here to move the notification things. So you are going to have some alerts, and these alerts are very important to your instructors. Okay, this tells them how your students are doing. If they click on course performance, they will see what's happening in the course in general. Okay, you see, they are going to tell them exactly how their students did on specific chapters, or they can select specific activities, or they can choose a specific student. If you have a student coming to your office, this is something that you want to. Action items. I have 12 instructor-graded activities that I have not looked at. These are activities that students did. You need to keep an eye on this because these are activities that students chose to do right before the final for additional practice, but they were not assigned. And it tells you and your instructors if a student left a message for you. So as soon as you open your My Spanish Lab page, you will have this information available to you. We'll find out how many activities were not passed, how many students are idle, how many activities were submitted past due, and this is total for the course, not only for the chapter. And this is activities that were not submitted past due and unread comments. Okay, so these are things that you need to keep in mind. You can select to enroll or unenroll students. This is why I have so many past due activities, because I assign almost 1,000 activities during the semester. So I have a few students that dropped the class, but they did not drop out of My Spanish Lab. I do not drop them out because they paid for the access to My Spanish Lab, and we are supposed to allow them to stay. I think that very few of them actually look at this, and they can only have access to My Spanish Lab during the time that the course is active, so they really get no benefit. But this, if you don't want to see those big numbers showing up here, you can just go to your home, and you can work with enrollment, okay, and you can decide what you are going to do with each student. Do you want to enroll them or unenroll them? Okay, so that's very easy. You can decide whether you want your instructors to be able to do it, or do you want your own program coordinator or the person in charge of enrollment to take care of that. So again, we always start with our template. I always keep a clean template for myself to play around a little bit with it and to try things out, because this view, remember, if you want to include a message, point out your alerts to your instructors. You are going to be setting the assignment calendar. You open your chapter and you decide what is it that you want to include. Okay, most of it will probably be from the student activity manual, and all it takes is a click, and then you drag all the stuff in purple or periwinkle or lavender, and you assign it, and that's it. If you want to add a note, you click on the day and you add a note, and you make sure that you save and close so it is published. Okay. Gradebook, you need to decide if you're going to be adding columns to that gradebook, or if you just want to add a text column for your instructors to give feedback to the students, and you can call it instructors' comments if you want. Okay. So that is basically what you need to do. Other than that, is preferences. Very, very important. You are going to go to General again. You are going to decide more than anything else in here. All you need to worry about is your due date. Enable try again and save preferences. You need to decide the settings for grading. You need to decide how you are going to handle the activities, and remember that each activity is separate, so you need to do it for each type of activity, okay? Time zone and location, and you also want to do your permissions if you want to grant different levels of permission to your TAs and your instructors. Remember that whatever you select for permissions applies to you too. So it is general, grading, activities, and time zone. There's much more here. You don't need to be concerned about that right at the start, but take a look and see what else could work for you. Remember that you do have a lot of additional tools available to you and your students. If you want to activate your e-text, all it takes is for you and your instructors to open the e-text before the class starts, and your students will have it available to them. You need to fill out your profile. So it's basically two places where you need to decide what you're going to do with your profile. And then once you're ready, you can go back to your home. You are going to select sections, and you are going to add a section. You name it. You select your template. You select the number of sections that you need from that template, and the start date, the end date. Keep in mind that the start date has to be the date in which you're going to make this available to your instructors. It cannot be the first day of class. And of course, don't forget to add and close. Your instructors will need to enroll as instructors using this. Okay? If you remember from our beginning, you could create a course. That's what we chose to do the template. The next bubble was enroll in a course. Your instructors are going to be selecting enroll in a course. And I think that this is all that we have for now. Again, all of this is available through the resources and the guides in My Spanish Lab. Your rep is your best resource, immediate resource. They are available and they can get you help if you need. And just take it one step at a time. There's a lot of stuff in My Spanish Lab, and just decide what works for you and what you need to use for your students. What would be the best for your students? This is the enroll in a course. For your instructors, you are going to create a course, and you're going to select the course, not the program, not the course, to create the template. So again, don't forget that there is an evaluation, and there's a lot of information in your participant packet. Don't forget your Appendix 6 for the online exams, Appendix CE has a good questionnaire to help you get started with those decisions for the preference, for the global preferences. And look at the CEU project because it does have some documents that is asking you to create that perhaps you want to create for your program, for your instructors, and for your students, independently of whether or not you are doing the CEU project. Thank you very much.